Roshni. In this video, we are going to see about the class and object in Java programming. We know that Java is an object-oriented programming language. For this object-oriented programming language, class and object are the basis for this object-oriented programming. So now using class, we can able to create a new data type. If you see in Java, we have lot of predefined data types or primitive data types like int, float, double, character, string. So likewise, using this class, we can able to create a new data type. The next one is class is a blueprint or a template, which means, say for example, if you want to create a water bottle, there will be a mold for this bottle. So using the mold, we can able to create any number of copies of the water bottle. Same way, class is also like a mold or a blueprint. Once the class is ready, we can able to create any number of instances of this class. That instance of the class is called object. Now let us discuss about this general structure of a class. Here we have a class and the class name, and we have a curly brace. So the basic structure of Java programming is already discussed in the previous video. So here we have a class and the class name. Inside the class we have only two things. One is data, another one is functionality. The data is also called as instance variable, and the function we call this member functions. And here we have instance variable and a member function. So inside a class we can have any number of instance variable and any number of functions. And say for example, if you have a class called student, for the student we are going to create a class. So what are the data or information about the student, like name, age, register number, mark, CGPA, attendance percentage. All this are all the data for the students. So that is all called instance variable. And what are the functionality for the student? Maybe attendance calculation, CGPA calculation, mark comparison. All these things can be the functionality for the student class. So we will discuss all this with examples. Now you consider, here we have a simple class called box. This box, what are the details about the box? What can be the data for the box? The width of the box, height of the box, depth of the box, right? So this is about the data for this function, and it is called as instance variable. Now it is present inside this class. If you want to access all this data or the instance variable from this class, you have to create an object. Remember, if you want to get anything out of a class, you can get it through object. So here, if I want to access width or height or depth outside of this class, for that, first thing is we have to create an object for the class. So already we discussed class is like a mold or a blueprint. So then object are the instance of this class. So say for example, whenever you create a class, we know that whenever we have a mold, it should be in a general form. Okay, it should be not a specific one. It should be a general one, so that then we can create any number of bottles of a specific form. So for example, we will have a general structure of a bottle, then we can make it specific by giving different colors, different text on it, different design on it. But the basic form is common, right? Same way, when you create a class also, it should be a general one. Say for example, when you create a class, you can create a class for student, but we cannot create a student for John. So class student is a general one, and if I create a class for John, it is a specific one. So then if I create a class for John, then I can use the class only for John. So you have to remember, whenever I create a class, it should be a general one. Okay, it should not be a specific one. Okay. So now if I want to access anything out of this class, I have to create an object of the class. So how to create an object of the class? First you have to say class name, object name equal to new class name of. Okay, so here you can easily remember the beginning and the end is similar. Sometimes it may change according to the situation. Here may be a parent class, and here it can be a child class, that we will discuss in other videos. So generally this is the syntax of any object. So first we have a class name, then the object name equal to, then we have to give a new keyword, then we have to use box. We will discuss it one by one. So now whenever I create an object like this, so here I have two objects. The first object name is OB1 and next object name is OB2. So here I have an object called OB1 and the data is present in it. And next one is OB2 and the data is present in it is OB2. Okay. So here whenever I create an object, it will have the copy of the data present inside the class. So what will be present in OB1? What are the data present in the class box? So what are the data present inside the class box? We have with height and depth. So every object we create, every object have a copy of this data. So here if you want to assign some data for this width, we can access it ob1 dot width. So with the help of object, now we can access this the instance variable. So what is the object name? ob1, and I can access it by ob1 dot width. Then if I want to access height, I cannot directly access height outside. I can use the help of object, right? What is the object name? ob1 or ob2. So I can access like ob2 dot height, whatever it may be. And when you have to remember one more thing, when you create an object, you have to remember two things. So we know that this is the syntax, right? What is the syntax to create an object? Class name, object name equal to new class name of. But here you have to remember, if I just say class name and object name, class and a variable name, okay? This is not called as an object now. Now it is called only as reference to the object. But when you assign a new keyword, then only it is called as object. So new keyword will help us to allocate memory. So if you see in this example, when I just say class name and object name, it will create only a reference. So you can see what is the name of the reference? My box. And inside that we have null value because now my box is not an object. It is a reference. So if it is a reference, it will not have any data in it. So when I say my box equal to new box of, when I use the new keyword, then only the memory will be allocated for the box, and now the box can contain all the data inside the class. So what are the data present inside the class? With height and depth. So when I use the new keyword, then only a memory will be allocated. So in the place of reference, so you know that my box is just a reference. So in the place of reference, the address of this memory will be saved. So this reference will be in the stack memory, and this new memory location will be in the heap memory. Okay, so have to keep in mind. So whenever we use new keyword, then only the object will be created, and using the new keyword, the memory will be allocated for the instance variable of the object. So now we have to remember new keyword will help us to dynamically allocate the memory for the object, and it will return the reference to it. So here if the address is 100xx, so 10xx will be stored here, so that will be the reference for this memory location. Now you can create any number of objects for a class. So as we discussed, once the mold is ready, we can create any number of copies of the instance of the class, that is objects. So once a class is ready, we can create any number of objects for the class. So how to create an object for the class? Class name, object name equal to new class name of. And whenever we create a new, we use a new keyword. For this B1, a memory location will be allocated and this reference will be stored in this place. Same way for the B2, when you use the new keyword, and memory location will be allocated in the heap, and the reference of that will be stored in the variable B2. So that is an object. So now, and we have to remember one more thing. When we assign an object reference to the variable, what will happen? So here we can see B1. B1 is an object, right? We have used a new keyword, so class name, object name equal to new class name of. And now we have another one variable, like we'll say this is reference box B2. And when I assign B1, this object to this reference B2, what happens? This is what happened in the memory. So we know that when I create an object B1, for this B1 object in the memory, the space will be allocated for width, height and depth. And when I copy this object B1 to this B2, so B2 will be another object which will be pointing to the same location. So whenever we copy or assign one object to the another object reference, this is what happened. So B1 and B2 are now referring to the same memory location that you have to keep in mind. So when I assign one object to the another reference, so this will be pointing to the same memory location of that particular object. Okay, so now we will see how to have a function. Okay, so we all know the functions in Java is also similar to the functions in C++. So what is the syntax of it? Return type, name of the function, and the parameter list. So to make you to understand about the function, let me give an analogy. Okay, so say for example, we have a girl. Okay, so what is the function of the girl is we have to make the girl to write something. So if the girl want to write something, what are the inputs should I pass to this girl? So if the girl's function is to write, I have to pass a pen and also I have to pass a notebook to the girl. So then only the girl can write his functionality, that is writing is his work. So what is the parameter for this girl? A pen and a notebook are the parameters for this girl to complete his functionality, that is writing in a notebook. And after she write, she can display the what she has written in the notebook can be displayed in two ways. One, the girl itself can show his notebook, okay, show her notebook. Otherwise, the girl can pass the notebook to the person given who gave that notebook to the girl. So one is girl itself can show the notebook, another one is the girl can pass the notebook to the person who gave the notebook to her. So in both the way, the girl can display the output. So same way for a function. So according to the analogy, what can be the name of the function? Writing is the name of the function. And what are the parameter list? What are the data needed to achieve the task? So for this case, the parameters are notebook and the pen. And I told that the output can be displayed in two ways. One, the girl can display the output. Another one is the girl can pass the output to somebody else. Same way, one is inside the function itself we can display the results. Another one is from this function we can pass the result outside through this return type. Okay, and this can be passed to the calling of the function, caller of the function, that we will see with an example. So here return type means after we finish our task, what we are going to returning out of this function. So this is a general form of a function inside a class. So return type, name of the function, parameter list. Parameter list will give you all the necessary information or data needed for this function to achieve the task. Okay, and now this is a general example, a simple example. So here we have a class. So we know that for a class means it contains only two things, data and function. Here, what are the data for the student? Name, register number and marks. So these are the data we have taken here. We can add any number of data as we want according to our task. Another one is what can be present, another thing present inside a student class, another one is function. So here we have a function called getStatus. So if the mark is greater than 50, if this mark is greater than 50, we will say the grade is pass, else we will say the grade is fail. So this is a simple example how can a class look like. Now we are going to see an real-time one implementation for this class and objects. Now we are going to create a new class. So already the basic structure of the class is discussed in the previous video. Now we are going to create another class. Let us name this class as student demo. Okay, so now our ID is ready. Okay, so now we are going to create a class. We know that how a class look like. So we are going to create a class for student itself. Okay, so this is class name. Then we know that we want a boundary. So how we will give the boundary for this class using the opening and closing curly brace. So now we don't know inside the class we have only two things, data and functions. So data we will call this instance variable and the function we will call this member functions. So what are the details about the student? Student may have name. So name is of type string. Next one, we will give the age of the student as integer. Okay, what else the information we can give? We can give the CGPA, right? So for that we will say float as CGPA. Then we'll have another variable boolean, and for that we'll say whether the person have arrear or not, right? So boolean and we'll say arrear details. So yes or no we'll get. So these are the information. So we can, if we want to have more other information about the student, we can have it. Another one, we know that the class contain data. Another one is function. Let us have a function called display, and we are going to display all the details about the student inside this function. So we know that how to display something in Java using system.out.println. So ln means new line, right? So here we are going to say the name is, and we'll say, and here we have to concatenate, and the name is in the variable name, and this name, right? This name is the instance variable. This is not a local variable. This is the instance variable which contains the information about the student class. Same way, we can also print all the details about the student, and we will say the ages, and we'll say the name of the age variable age. And same way we will print the CGPA. We'll print the CGPA is, and the variable name for this is CGPA, right? And same way we have to print whether the student have arrear or not. The arrear details are true or false, whether the student have arrear or not. So the arrear is true or false. So we will here the arrear details is in the variable or in the instance variable ARR. So here is our class. So what are things present inside a class? A class name. This curly brace is the boundary of this class. Okay, and this class contain two things. What are they? Data and a function. So these are the data: name, age, CGPA, and arrear detail. Another one is we have a function just to display all these details. Now, as we discussed in the previous class, this is a class, this is the next class. Okay, inside a Java program we can have any number of classes. What one thing you have to remember here is the class which contain the main function should be the name, the class name which is going to have the main function in it. That class name should be the name of the file also. So here I have given student demo. Okay, that should be the name of the file also, because in this class only I am going to have the main function. So we know that the main function syntax is public static and void main, and we discussed all these details in the previous video. Hope you remember it. And it is a string array. Now we have to say the curly brace, and we know that this is a class which is going to have the main function. So this class should be public because it should be accessible by everybody, and we know that the main function is the entry point of our class. So in a program we can have any number of the class, but only one class will have the main function. So here we have a student class, and now here we have another class which is the name is student demo, and that should be the name of the file name also, because this class is only going to have the main function. Now also we discussed, if we want to access any of these details like name or age or CGPA or arrear, we have to first create an object for the student class. So how to create an object for the student class? So we know this is index. First name is name of the class, object name equal to new name of the class. Okay, so this is what. So now the object is ready. So this is what, this is an object. This is an object 1. Okay, so we know the double slash is a comment, and we can add some documentation or any details about anything. So double slash, whatever we put inside after the double slash will not be executed, and that is a comment. Now using this object, we can say it is as a key. Using this key only you can access anything from this class because it is another class. So now if you want to access the display function, we'll say s1 dot, and what is the function name which is present inside the class? Display. Right? Now we will run this program and let us see what's happening in the output. Okay, so using this object s1, it's like a key, we could able to access this function display. And what does this function do? It is going to display all the details about name, age, CGPA, arrear. And this is called an object, and this place is going to call the constructor. Okay, and in this video I'll just say about what is constructor, but in the next video we'll see more detail about the constructor. So this part is going to call the constructor. But if you see in this program, there is no constructor. Constructor means it is also like a function, but it's little bit different. Constructor have same name as that of the class name, and it doesn't have any return type. Okay, so here we have not defined any constructor. If we have not defined any constructor, okay, automatically our runtime environment will create a constructor for us, and it will assign the default values for it. And if you see in our output here the name is, okay, what is the default value of a string? The default value of a string is null. So we got the name is null because we have not assigned any value for this instance variable. And what is the default value for age? It is 0. What is the default value for float? 0.0. What is the default value for boolean? It is false. So since we have not assigned any value using the default constructor, okay, this part is going to call the constructor, and this program we have not defined the constructor. So if we have not defined any constructor, our runtime environment is going to create it automatically. So it will be called by this place, and it is going to display the default value for all this instance variables, so that we got the output. Okay, and if you want to have set some data for it, we'll do an example for it. So now we have a function for display. Okay, if we don't have a constructor, we are going to use getter and setter function. So getter function is going to get the data for all this instance variable, and setter function will return the instance variable data, or it can display it. Now let us have a function called getData, which is going to get all the information about this instance variable. Okay, so what are the information we want to get for this instance variable? Name, age, CGPA, and area details. So we'll say system.out.println, and we'll say enter your name, right? And then we'll say and we will get the input. We know that in Java, if you want to get the input from the user, we have to create a scanner object. So we know that scanner, okay, it is a predefined class already available inside the util package. So object name, we'll say a scan equal to new scanner. So whenever you want to create we want to access anything from anywhere, we have to create an object for it. So first we have to create an object for the scanner class. And where does this object, this scanner is going to get the input? The scanner is going to get the input from the input stream. So we have to say system.in, so which means it is going to get the input from the system's input stream, which means from the keyboard. Okay, now if you see here, we have an error. What it is going to say? It is going to say the scanner is now available inside the util package. If you double click it, the header file will be automatically added. So now we can understand inside the Java's big package, we have another package called util package. From the util package, it is going to access the class called scanner. In the previous video, we discussed what is the default package for Java, that is lang package. But here, the scanner is not present inside the lang package, it is present inside the util package. So that we have included it here. Now we are going to use int for the name, right? For this data only, for this instance variable only, we want to get the details. Okay, so we'll say name equal to, using the scanner object, scan dot, it is a string, right? Name means you can have more than one word, so we have to use next line. Same way, we have to get all the informations. What are the other information? We want to get the age, so we'll say enter the age, and for this age variable we are going to have age. So what is this age? This, and age is what? It is an integer type, right? So that is what we are getting an error. So we have to say next int. So it will get the input as an integer. Here it is going to get a one full line. Okay. The next thing, we want to get the CGPA. So we'll say CGPA, enter the CGPA, and the variable to get it is CGPA. And we know that CGPA is of what data type? Float, right? So we have to say here next float to get all these things we have to use next to get a float data we have to use next float function from the scanner class. So we know that using the scanner class we could able to access all this function already predefined inside the scanner class. This scanner class is now present inside the package util. Okay, so we have to get one more details, that is about the arrear detail, enter arrear details. Okay, and this want to be stored in a variable called arr. And now what we want to get, we want to get a boolean variable, right? We have next boolean. See how all these are the functions available here, and now we want to have a boolean, so we'll say next boolean. Okay, so now the get data have received all the information about name, age, CGPA, arrear, everything is good. And one more reason I'll tell you why I have declared this scanner object here. So if I declare the scanner object here, I could able to use this scanner object throughout the class wherever I want to get the input. So that is why I have declared the scanner here. So always remember, class contain two things, data and the functions. So now this class student have the data, that is the instance variable, and also two function, get data and display data. So now if you want to access this get data from this main function, how to access it? Only with the help of an object. So if I say s1 dot, what is the name of the function we have? That is get data. Okay, that is what the name we have given there. So get data will get the data, and using display function we will display it. Now if we run this function, we'll see it is asking enter the name. So we'll say the name is John, and age will say 21, CGPA will say 9.9, and we'll say the arrear details is false, we don't have any arrear details. So now after using get function, this function will be called, and it is asking the data one by one, enter your name, enter your age, all these things. And once we did it, and next we have called the display function. So this display function is calling this display, and it is displaying the name, age and CGPA, which is available inside this S1 object. We know already from this PPT we saw that whenever we create an object in the memory, for this object all the instance variable, the memory space will be allocated. Same way here, when is S1 object is created, for S inside this S1 object is contain name, age, CGPA and arrear. Okay, so this is what basic information. So I will tell you one more thing and I'll finish it. So now here I am going to create another one object, S2. Okay, this is object 2. Now for this object 2 also we will run it and see. So here we have to say S2. For this object 2 we are going to get the data and we are going to display the data, and how does it going to work we will see. Okay, so I have run it. It is asking enter the name, so I'll say John, and age and CGPA 9, and we'll say the arrear is false. Okay, and it display the data, right? Again it is asking enter your name for the second object. So we'll say the name is Peter, and the age is 21, and the CGPA is 9.8, and arrear details is false. So now again it is displaying the name, age and CGPA and arrear of the second object. So I will teach you one more thing here. See, when S1 object is calling the display, S1 object's name, age, see, when S1 object is John is the first object, when S1 object is calling the display function, all this data available in S1 will be displayed. And when S2 object is created, for S2 object we gave the details like Peter, 21, 9.8 and false. So when S2 object is calling display function, that S2 object's details will be displayed. So the object which called this function, that object's name, that object age, that object CGPA and that object's arrear. Okay, so here always you remember the class should be a general one. It should not be a specific one. So here you should not use object like S1. It is wrong. Okay, so whenever you write something inside a class, it should be a general one. So which object is calling this function? That object's name, that object's age, that object's CGPA and that object's arrear will be displayed. And here also which object is get using this calling this get function, that object's name will be received here. and that object's age will be received here. So here if s1 object is calling get function, so in s1's object's name will be stored, age will be stored. Since you know whenever we create any number of object, for that each object a separate memory location will be created using the new keyword, right? So this is how a class will be created, and for this class we can able to create an object, and using this object we could able to call this function. And one more thing here I will tell you, if I use static keyword here, okay, if I use static keyword here, then there is no need to create an object for it, that we will see it in another class, okay. So this is about the basics of classes and object in Java programming. Hope you understand it. Thank you for listening. Thank you, Ma.